Elias Rayner adjusted his seat as the small shuttle hummed quietly through the corridors of the Interstellar Alliance flagship Aurora. He was just a cadet, a young human in a fleet filled with officers whose faces had commanded starships and negotiated peace treaties. Yet, as the shuttle drifted toward the outer edge of Zyphora's system, Elias felt a thrill he had never experienced before. This was his first real mission. Not a training exercise or simulator. This was the real thing, and he was responsible for escorting a guest who had been described in elaborate official reports as a figure of immense importance. Princess Lyra of Zyphora was not just royalty. She was the heir to a civilization known for its advanced technology and strict codes of diplomacy. To humans, Zyphorans were almost like myths, towering, graceful, and intelligent beyond imagination. They often made humans feel clumsy, loud, and hasty. Elias had spent weeks reviewing every bit of protocol, every detail about Zyphoran customs, and yet he still felt uncertain. He had to make a good impression not for himself, but for humanity. The shuttle's doors hissed open, and there she was. Princess Lyra floated down the ramp with a serene, almost ethereal grace. Her silver and indigo robes shimmered faintly, reflecting the light from the nearby star. Elias could feel his pulse quicken. He had seen images of her in holobriefings, but nothing could prepare him for the reality. Her eyes, a deep shade of violet, scanned the shuttle interior, assessing every corner as though it were a puzzle. "Cadet Rayner, I presume?" she said, her voice melodic but precise. There was no warmth in it, just the formal courtesy expected in her station. "Yes, Princess Lyra," Elias replied, standing straight. "I'll ensure your safety and comfort during this visit." Her eyes narrowed slightly, just enough to suggest that she was unconvinced. "You are a cadet. I expected an officer of rank." Elias forced a smile. "Cadets can be resourceful. Sometimes we see things others overlook." She raised an eyebrow, a gesture so slight it could have been missed. "I will hope you are correct." The shuttle detached from the Aurora and began its slow journey toward Zyphora's surface. Silence filled the cabin, punctuated only by the gentle hum of the engines. Elias wanted to speak, to ask about her travels, her home, anything that might ease the tension. But the princess remained reserved. Every word he considered seemed inadequate. Hours passed as they drifted through the system, and Elias began to notice subtle details. The Zyphoran fleet had patterns in its patrols, careful arcs that suggested an awareness of predators in their space. Sensors picked up distant asteroid belts, and every few minutes, Lyra would make notes in a small device, her long fingers moving with elegance and precision. Elias realized she was studying the journey as much as he was, analyzing trajectories, and perhaps even judging him. Suddenly, the shuttle's communication panel beeped urgently. "Cadet Rayner, this is Admiral Korvax. We've picked up an unusual signal from Zyphora's outer sector. Unknown craft, fast-moving. You are to investigate and report immediately." Elias swallowed hard. "Understood, Admiral. Princess, we may experience some turbulence." Lyra's expression remained composed. "I am aware of duty, Cadet. Lead the way." He felt a surge of admiration. She was calm, focused, and confident, even in the face of uncertainty. Elias activated the shuttle's sensors and plotted a course toward the source of the signal. As the stars streaked past the windows, he reviewed the data. The signal was unlike any they had encountered before. Its energy signature was massive, yet strangely organized, almost as if it had a mind guiding it. Elias felt a mixture of excitement and apprehension. This was no ordinary ship, and perhaps no ordinary threat. The shuttle approached Zyphora's outer ring of asteroids. Elias slowed the engines to a crawl, scanning the region carefully. Shadows moved between the rocky formations, massive shapes that defied the imagination. Then, they appeared. Sleek, enormous vessels with jagged designs glinting in the starlight, moving with calculated precision. Elias's heart raced. "Princess, we've got company. Unknown ships approaching fast. They're large. Very large." Lyra's eyes narrowed. and for the first time, a flicker of surprise passed across her face. "The apex hunters," she whispered. "I thought they had moved beyond this sector." Elias glanced at her. "Apex hunters?" She gave him a sharp look. "Legends in our galaxy. They hunt the strongest, the cleverest, the most challenging beings. I had thought you humans had never encountered them." He felt the weight of her words. "They're real," he said simply. "Yes," she said, "and they are patient. They do not attack unless they see opportunity or weakness." The shuttle's sensors picked up more of the apex vessels weaving among the asteroids. Their movements were fast, precise, and coordinated, like predators circling a herd. Elias realized immediately that conventional tactics would not work. These creatures, or whatever they were intelligent and strategic. He adjusted the shuttle's shields and positioned them behind a dense asteroid cluster. "Princess, stay close. I have an idea." Lyra looked at him skeptically. "A cadet has an idea?" Elias felt a surge of determination. "Sometimes, cadets see patterns others don't. Trust me." With careful maneuvers, he guided the shuttle through narrow gaps, using the asteroids as cover. The apex hunters followed, their massive forms slithering between rocks. But Elias had anticipated their paths. He directed minor energy pulses at the largest asteroids, creating vibrations that confused the sensors of the hunters' ships. One by one, they veered slightly off course. Princess Lyra watched in silence, her expression unreadable. Yet, when Elias executed a particularly risky maneuver, skimming past a jagged asteroid barely 3 meters from the hull, she leaned forward slightly. Intrigued. "You are clever," she said softly. Elias allowed himself a small smile. "Thank you, Princess, but cleverness isn't enough. We need patience, observation, and timing. That's what keeps us alive out here." The apex hunters finally slowed, circling the asteroid field but not engaging directly. They seemed to be observing, evaluating. Elias realized that their presence alone was a test. The galaxy's most feared hunters were studying him, and perhaps the princess as well. Hours passed as the shuttle held position. The hunters made no aggressive moves, but their threat was unmistakable. Elias and Lyra worked silently together, checking sensor data, predicting movement, and discussing strategy. Despite the initial tension between them, an unspoken understanding began to form. He was not just a cadet, he was a human capable of thinking, adapting, and surviving in ways even seasoned officers might overlook. Eventually, the apex hunters retreated, slipping through a distant wormhole with smooth, calculated motion. The tension in the cabin eased, and Elias let out a long breath. Princess Lyra studied him carefully, her violet eyes searching for something beyond skill. "You survived," she said finally, "and you were not reckless. That is impressive." Elias nodded, his chest still tight from adrenaline. "We did what we had to do. It's not just me, it's observation, patience, and planning. That's how humans survive." For the first time, Lyra smiled, though subtly. "Perhaps I underestimated you, Cadet Raynor. I may have judged you too quickly." The shuttle continued its descent toward Zyphora's surface. The stars above seemed calmer now, the shadow of the apex hunters replaced by a quiet awareness of human resilience. Elias felt a growing sense of confidence, not arrogance, but certainty that humans could not only explore the galaxy, but also stand their ground against legends. As the planet's surface drew near, covered in towering crystal forests and cities of gleaming spires, Elias glanced at Princess Lyra. She was silent now, her hands folded, observing the alien world with awe that mirrored his own. He realized that while she had questioned his abilities at first, she was beginning to see what humanity could accomplish: courage, intelligence, and adaptability in the vast unknown. The shuttle touched down gently, and the ramp extended. Princess Lyra stepped out first, followed closely by Elias. Around them, Zyphora's capital gleamed under twin suns, a mix of alien beauty and engineering marvels. The city was alive with movement, yet calm compared to the distant chaos of the hunters' arrival. You did well, Cadet, Lyra said quietly as they walked toward the welcoming platform. I look forward to seeing how far your skills extend. Perhaps you are more than just a cadet after all. Elias allowed himself a modest smile. He didn't need praise, yet he felt it nonetheless. The mission had only begun, but he had already learned that being human meant more than rank or title. It meant ingenuity, courage, and the willingness to act when others hesitated. And as he walked beside the alien princess, he knew that the galaxy was full of challenges, but also full of possibilities. Humanity had arrived, and perhaps, just perhaps, it was ready to be recognized. Elias and Princess Lyra moved through the gleaming streets of Zyphora's capital, a city of towering crystalline towers and shimmering walkways that reflected the twin suns above. Despite the beauty surrounding them, Elias could feel the tension lingering in the air. The apex hunter's presence in the outer system was not just a threat, it was a warning. Every citizen seemed aware of it, yet no one panicked. Zypherans carried themselves with quiet dignity, as if acknowledging danger was simply part of life. The princess led Elias to the council chamber. A vast hall suspended above the city, with transparent floors showing the bustling activity below. Around them, Zyphora's council of elders convened, their elongated forms radiating authority. Lyra addressed them with graceful precision, and Elias noticed that even in this formal setting, she retained the composure that had impressed him during the shuttle journey. The apex hunters are close, she announced, her voice firm. They are scouting our sector. We must remain vigilant. The council members murmured among themselves. Elias could not understand the language, but the intensity in their gestures and expressions made their concern clear. The hunters were a force that demanded respect and caution, even from an advanced civilization like Zyphora. Elias stayed near Lyra's side, observing. He knew that he was young, human, and officially just a cadet. But he refused to be invisible. He studied the data streaming from the shuttle's sensors, cross-referencing it with information Lyra's aides provided. Patterns began to emerge, movement trends, preferred distances from planets, and what seemed like testing behaviors. One thing is certain, Elias said quietly, leaning toward Lyra. They are not attacking yet. They are watching. They are curious or cautious. Lyra turned to him, a small smile touching her lips. And you understand them better than our council, it seems. I have a perspective that comes from observation, patience, and thinking beyond protocol, Elias replied. Sometimes, rules blind experienced leaders to possibilities. Cadets, well, we have little to lose and much to notice. Lyra nodded, clearly intrigued. Elias felt a surge of pride. Not for himself, but for the fact that the princess was starting to recognize human ingenuity. It was a small victory, but meaningful. Later, as they examined the outer sensors together, alarms suddenly blared throughout the council chamber. The holographic display lit up, showing multiple massive ships emerging from beyond Zyphora's asteroid belt. The apex hunters had come closer. Elias watched their formation with fascination and concern. They were huge, sleek, and deliberately intimidating. Their movement was precise, almost elegant, yet it radiated danger. They are testing us, Lyra said, her voice steady but urgent. We must respond carefully. Any mistake could be costly. Elias scanned the data. The hunters' patterns suggested that they were evaluating, perhaps even expecting humans and Zyphorans to act defensively. He felt the familiar surge of determination. We don't need to fight recklessly, he said. We can observe, redirect, and make them underestimate us. Lyra raised an eyebrow. You propose a strategy? Yes, Elias said. If we show coordination, intelligence, and adaptability, we might guide them away without direct conflict. They respond to cleverness. That is how they hunt, by seeking worthy opponents. If they see we are capable, they may leave without unnecessary aggression. Lyra studied him for a long moment. Very well, Cadet. Show me what your humans can do. Together, they worked with the Council's tactical team, blending human intuition with Zyphoran technology. They devised a plan to monitor the hunters' movements, predict their paths, and use the natural asteroid belts as a form of cover and distraction. Elias suggested deploying small drone units to create false energy signatures, making the hunters think the fleet's defenses were stronger and more unpredictable than they actually were. The council was hesitant at first, but Lyra's quiet endorsement carried weight. The drones were launched, their lights flickering like fireflies as they danced through the asteroid field. The apex hunters approached cautiously, scanning the area, unsure which signals were real and which were decoys. Elias and Lyra monitored every movement. When a hunter ship veered toward one of the decoys, Elias smiled. "It's working. They're reacting exactly as predicted." Lyra's expression softened. "I underestimated your insight, Cadet. You are remarkably perceptive." Hours passed as the hunters continued to probe, each move countered by the clever human Zypheran plan. Elias felt his confidence growing, but he remained cautious. The apex hunters were unpredictable, and even the smallest miscalculation could turn the situation dangerous. Yet he noticed something fascinating: they were learning from him too. Every time the drones shifted or the fleet maneuvered, the hunters adjusted, analyzing, reconsidering. It was a silent conversation of strategy and intelligence, and Elias realized he was participating fully, even as a cadet. The tension finally broke when a hunter ship made a sudden retreat through the asteroid field. Others followed, not with aggression but with the deliberate movement of a species that had recognized an unexpected challenge. They were intelligent enough to withdraw when victory seemed uncertain, respecting the cleverness of those they studied. Elias let out a long breath, feeling the adrenaline ebb. Lyra turned to him, her violet eyes reflecting both surprise and admiration. "You have done more than survive," she said. "You have guided them away without a single loss. That is impressive. Even for a veteran officer." Elias shook his head modestly. "We acted together. Observation, patience, and coordination, those are what worked. Humans are capable of these things, but I could not have done it alone." Lyra smiled, a rare gesture of warmth and respect. "Perhaps I judged you too quickly. You are more than just a cadet, Elias Raynor. You are a strategist, a thinker, and surprisingly resilient." As night fell over Zyphora, the city lights reflecting off the crystalline towers, Elias felt a mixture of relief and exhilaration. The apex hunters were still out there, a looming threat in the distant galaxy, but for now, humans had proven their value, not through force, but through intelligence, adaptability, and courage. The princess invited him to walk with her along the elevated pathways above the city. Citizens moved below, unaware of the subtle threat that had passed, but their trust in their leadership and the alliance seemed intact. Elias realized that humans were not just participants in the galaxy, they could be leaders, innovators, and problem solvers, even in situations that seemed impossible. "You understand the hunters better than anyone else here," Lyra said, her voice soft, almost contemplative. "And you acted with calm, precision, and creativity. That is not common, even among my people." Elias felt a surge of pride, tempered by humility. "I have learned from watching, listening, and thinking carefully. That is what humans do. We adapt, we plan, and we act when necessary. That is how we survive, and sometimes how we succeed where others might fail." Lyra glanced at him, her gaze lingering. "Perhaps humans are more remarkable than I realized. Your ingenuity, determination, and courage, they are qualities worth noting." Elias smiled faintly. He did not seek praise, but it felt good to be recognized. He knew that this mission was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, and the apex hunters were only one of many challenges humanity might face. Yet for the first time, he felt confident that humans could meet any test, not by brute strength alone, but by intelligence, creativity, and the willingness to act. The next morning, the fleet prepared for further monitoring missions. Sensors were placed at strategic points. Drones patrolled the asteroid belts, and communications remained open with the Zypheran command. Elias worked tirelessly alongside Lyra, refining strategies, anticipating potential moves by the apex hunters, and training cadets to think beyond conventional tactics. Throughout it all, the princess observed him closely. She was no longer just testing him. She was learning from him, seeing in humanity qualities that could complement her people's strengths. Elias felt a quiet satisfaction in knowing that his efforts were making a difference not just in terms of strategy, but in forging trust and collaboration between species. When the sun rose over Zyphera's horizon, painting the crystalline towers in shades of gold and purple, Elias stood beside Princess Lyra, looking out over the city. The threat of the apex hunters still hung in the outer reaches of space. But for the first time, he believed that humans and Zyphorans together could face it, and whatever other challenges might come. Lyra turned to him, her expression a mixture of respect and curiosity. "Cadet Raynor, I look forward to seeing how far your skills can take us. The galaxy is wide, and the hunters are only the beginning. You have shown that humans are clever, resourceful, and resilient. That is a quality worth remembering." Elias nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility, but also the thrill of opportunity. Humanity was no longer just observers in the galaxy. They were participants, thinkers, and innovators, capable of standing alongside even the most advanced civilizations. And with the princess by his side, he knew that this was only the beginning of an extraordinary journey. The city below shimmered with life, the twin suns casting long shadows that intertwined with the towers. In the distance, the asteroid belts glinted faintly, a reminder that the apex hunters might return. But Elias felt ready. He was not just a cadet. He was human. And humans, he knew, could rise to meet any challenge, even legends. The morning after the apex hunters had retreated, the skies above Zyphora were eerily calm. The twin suns cast long, shimmering reflections across the city's crystalline towers, giving the impression of peace. Yet beneath the calm surface, tension ran deep. Every officer, cadet, and council member knew the hunters were still out there. Elias Raynor felt the weight of this knowledge pressing against him. But instead of fear, he felt focus. The threat had not ended, and it was time to prepare for what might come next. Princess Lyra walked beside him as they monitored the fleet from an observation platform above the city. She no longer regarded him simply as a cadet. His previous actions had earned her respect. Yet, she remained cautious. "They are intelligent," she said softly. "The hunters do not make mistakes, and they do not attack without reason. If they return, it will be because they see something worth testing." Elias nodded, analyzing the holographic data projected from the fleet's central monitors. "Exactly. That means we have time to anticipate them. They will test us, yes, but only if we give them a chance. We can turn their intelligence against them by predicting their behavior and preparing accordingly." Lyra turned to him, eyes sharp. "And how do you propose we do that, Cadet?" Elias took a deep breath. "We need to think like them. The hunters hunt the strongest and cleverest. They look for mistakes, hesitation, or weakness. If we create controlled situations where they perceive challenge but find only precision, they may withdraw again, or at least, hesitate long enough for us to control the engagement." The princess considered this carefully. "You are suggesting we engage them indirectly, not with force, but with strategy." "Yes," Elias confirmed. "We make them chase what they cannot truly capture. Use the environment, use deception, and use coordination. That is how humans survive, and sometimes thrive." Lyra's lips curved slightly into a smile. "Very well. Let us prepare." Over the next few hours, the fleet repositioned. Elias worked closely with Zypheran engineers and strategists, combining human intuition with alien technology. They deployed energy beacons along the outer asteroid belts, each beacon designed to emit false signals mimicking fleet movements. Small drones darted between the rocks, leaving trails of light to suggest larger forces moving unpredictably. Elias also suggested using Zyphora's natural gravitational anomalies to their advantage. If we can lure them into the belts, their size will work against them. They are fast, but cumbersome near gravitational distortions. The hunters are clever, but even they can be guided into a trap if the path is tempting enough. The princess observed his plan with keen interest. Your strategy relies on foresight, observation, and the willingness to act. That is rare. Elias shrugged modestly. It is simply thinking beyond immediate threat. Most humans survive by reacting. I prefer to anticipate. By late afternoon, the apex hunters reappeared. Their ships moved with sleek precision, scanning the asteroid belts, calculating paths, and evaluating potential prey. Elias held his breath, watching as his plan unfolded. The hunters detected the false signals and pursued them, moving carefully between the massive rocks. Elias directed the drones to shift patterns, leading the hunters deeper into the belts. Some ships adjusted their routes cautiously, but the largest vessels, confident in their power, pressed forward. The gravitational anomalies slowed them, their immense mass making navigation difficult. Princess Lyra's eyes widened slightly. It is working. They are reacting exactly as you predicted. Elias nodded. Patience. Timing is everything. One wrong move, and it could all collapse. For hours, they observed and adjusted. The apex hunters tested every maneuver, probing the fleet's defenses and sensing patterns. But Elias had anticipated their logic. Every decoy, every shift in drone movement, every subtle adjustment in trajectory created the impression of complexity and strength far greater than the actual fleet. The hunters, intelligent and cautious, began to hesitate. One massive vessel, larger than anything the Alliance had ever recorded, attempted to break the formation and pursue what it thought was a vulnerable fleet segment. Elias immediately directed the drones to emit a sudden pulse, triggering a chain reaction of energy waves among the asteroids. The false signals suggested a trap, causing the hunter to veer off abruptly to avoid collision. Lyra gasped, then looked at Elias with admiration. You anticipated their instinct for caution. That is remarkable. 1. Elias felt a quiet thrill. We are learning from each other. They think they are testing us, but we are learning their behavior as well. Intelligence can be mirrored. As the sun set over the crystalline towers, Elias and Lyra continued their adjustments. The apex hunters were driven deeper into the asteroid belts, cautious now, uncertain of the fleet's true strength. Their confidence, once absolute, had been challenged by the coordinated tactics of humans and Zyphorans. Elias felt a sense of accomplishment, but he remained vigilant. Legends such as the apex hunters rarely left empty-handed. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the hunters retreated. Their massive ships slipped silently through the edge of the system, leaving only faint energy trails as evidence of their presence. The fleet breathed a collective sigh of relief, but Elias and Lyra remained focused. This was a victory of strategy, not luck. Princess Lyra turned to him, her violet eyes reflecting the last rays of the twin suns. You have done more than survive, Elias Raynor. You have outwitted a species that many consider unbeatable. That is not just skill, it is brilliance. Elias shook his head. Brilliance is nothing without execution. Strategy only works when it is followed carefully. We acted together, not alone. That is what matters. Lyra studied him for a long moment, her gaze intense. Perhaps humans are more capable than I gave them credit for. You think quickly, act decisively, and yet remain cautious. That is a rare combination. Elias allowed himself a modest smile. Thank you, Princess. I hope it proves that humanity has value in the galaxy not just as explorers, but as partners, allies, and thinkers. The city below shimmered in twilight, the spires reflecting the fading sunlight. Citizens moved about their routines, unaware of the silent drama that had unfolded in the outer reaches of their system. Elias felt a sense of quiet pride. Humans had proven themselves not through sheer power, but through ingenuity, observation, and courage. Over the next few days, the fleet maintained vigilance. Drones patrolled the asteroid belts, sensors remained active, and training exercises prepared cadets and officers alike for any future encounters. Elias worked tirelessly alongside Lyra, refining strategies, teaching lessons, and demonstrating that even a cadet could contribute meaningfully to the safety of an entire system. Through it all, the princess observed him closely. She no longer viewed him with skepticism. Instead, she saw a human capable of leadership, of insight, and of courage that transcended rank. In quiet moments, she asked his thoughts on tactics, philosophy, and diplomacy, learning from his perspective as much as he learned from her knowledge of Zypheran culture. One evening, after another successful simulation, Elias and Lyra walked along the elevated pathways above the city. The twin moons rose in the sky, casting silver light over the crystalline towers. Lyra's tone was thoughtful. Elias, the galaxy is vast, and the hunters are only one of many challenges we may face. But I see now that humans are more than capable. You have proven that intelligence, courage, and ingenuity can rival experience and power. Elias nodded. The galaxy is full of challenges, Princess. But humans adapt. We learn quickly, think creatively, and act decisively when needed. That is what makes us resilient. Lyra looked at him with quiet respect. Perhaps one day, your kind will be recognized not only for survival but for leadership. Your skills, your thinking, they are extraordinary. Elias felt a mixture of humility and determination. He did not seek praise, but her words affirmed what he had begun to understand. Humans had a place among the stars, not just as passengers, but as participants, innovators, and defenders. The night stretched on, and the city below shimmered under the moon's light. The threat of the apex hunters remained, a distant but persistent shadow. Yet Elias no longer felt fear. He had learned how to think, how to anticipate, and how to act with both courage and precision. Humans could survive, and humans could excel. Princess Lyra walked beside him in silence, her presence both calming and inspiring. Elias realized that she had begun to trust him, not only for his skills but for his judgment and character. Together, they had turned what seemed like a potential disaster into a demonstration of human ingenuity and strategic brilliance. As they reached the observation platform's edge, Elias looked out over the city and the distant asteroid belts. The stars twinkled faintly, the galaxy full of unknown dangers and possibilities, and yet, for the first time, he felt certain. Humans were ready to meet whatever came next. They were clever, adaptable, and courageous, and perhaps, when the galaxy tested them, they could rise above even the legends. Princess Lyra's voice broke the silence. Cadet Raynor, the apex hunters underestimated us. Your insight, strategy, and courage have proven that humans are not to be dismissed. I look forward to seeing how far your skills can take us in the days ahead. Elias nodded, his eyes reflecting the moon's silver light. Thank you, Princess. This is only the beginning. The galaxy is wide, and humans are ready to face it. Whatever comes, we will adapt, think, and succeed. That is what we do. The night continued, calm yet charged with quiet anticipation. The apex hunters were still out there, legends of the galaxy. But Elias knew that humans were no longer just observers. They were participants, thinkers, and innovators, capable of standing shoulder to shoulder with even the most formidable civilizations. And with Princess Lyra beside him, he knew that humanity's story among the stars was only beginning. Days passed after the last encounter with the apex hunters, but the calm above Zyphera was deceptive. Sensors still detected faint signals far beyond the asteroid belts, suggesting that the hunters were observing, calculating, and perhaps preparing for another test. Elias Raynor moved through the fleet's command center with quiet determination. He was no longer just a cadet. His previous actions had earned the trust of officers and the cautious respect of the Zypheran Council. Yet he remained aware that the true challenge had not yet come. Princess Lyra approached him, her violet eyes sharp and focused. Elias, the hunters are returning. This time, I believe they intend to engage more directly. They have assessed our tactics and may test our limits. Elias nodded, his mind already running through strategies. Then we must prepare beyond anticipation. They have intelligence, yes, but they can be outmaneuvered if we coordinate precisely. We will use everything at our disposal. Drones, decoys, environmental advantages, and clever positioning. We can guide their movements, rather than confront them head-on. Lyra studied him, her expression a mixture of admiration and resolve. I trust your judgment. Lead, and I will follow. Together, we will ensure Zyphora remains safe. The fleet mobilized swiftly. Drones were stationed across the asteroid belts. Energy beacons were recalibrated, and sensor grids extended far beyond the planetary system. Elias worked with a team of cadets and officers, instructing them in real-time adjustments, improvisation, and careful observation. His confidence inspired others, and his calm approach reduced panic despite the looming threat. Hours later, the first shadows of the apex hunters appeared on the sensors. Massive ships moved in tight formation, their design both elegant and intimidating. Elias studied their approach. They are testing the perimeter first, checking for weaknesses. We will let them see a controlled front, then draw them where we want. Lyra's eyes followed the readings intently. And if they attack directly? Elias smiled faintly. Then we adapt. But our goal is not confrontation. It is demonstration. We must show them we are capable, clever, and unpredictable. That will force them to respect our strategy. As the hunters advanced, Elias initiated the first phase of the plan. Drones moved in complex patterns. Energy signals created the illusion of larger fleet movements, and the asteroid belts were highlighted with false navigational anomalies. The hunters responded immediately, adjusting their paths, drawn toward the apparent gaps in defense. Now, Elias said, Phase 2. Use the gravitational anomalies to our advantage. Their size will become a limitation in these regions. Quote, the largest apex vessels moved cautiously, attempting to navigate the denser areas of the asteroid belts. Elias guided them skillfully, predicting their adjustments and ensuring the drones reinforced the illusion of strength and unpredictability. Princess Lyra observed closely, noting his ability to combine human intuition with Zyphoran technological advantage. Hours passed as the engagement continued. The hunters were intelligent, but Elias's strategy forced them into patterns that limited their options. Each time a vessel approached a potential advantage, the fleet's subtle maneuvers shifted the balance, creating new opportunities for control without direct confrontation. Elias's cadets followed his instructions flawlessly, their confidence growing as they witnessed a cadet leading such a complex operation. Elias, Lyra said softly, her eyes reflecting admiration. Your understanding of their behavior is extraordinary. You anticipate their decisions before they make them. That is a skill worthy of legends. Elias shook his head modestly. It is observation, patience, and logic. We watch, we predict, and we act. That is what humans do best when faced with uncertainty. As the sun began to set over Zyphora's towers, the apex hunters made a decisive move. One of their largest vessels broke formation, moving toward what it perceived as a critical weakness. Elias acted immediately, directing the drones to create a sudden energy flare, simulating a defensive fleet maneuver. At the same time, he adjusted the gravitational anomalies to subtly channel the vessel into a narrow corridor surrounded by asteroid clusters. The vessel, massive and powerful, struggled to adjust. Its movements became restricted, and its momentum forced it to veer along the path Elias had predicted. Princess Lyra watched in awe as the plan unfolded perfectly, demonstrating not only human intelligence, but precise coordination with Zyphoran technology. They are being guided, Lyra said, barely above a whisper. Your prediction is flawless. Elias smiled faintly. It is not prediction alone, it is understanding patterns, behavior, and the limits of their strength. Even legends have limitations. We simply need to identify and exploit them carefully. The other Apex vessels observed their companions' difficulty. Some adjusted their course cautiously, while others hesitated, assessing the apparent danger. Elias recognized the opportunity. We maintain the illusion, extend the corridor, and allow them to make choices. Each choice brings them closer to controlled positions where they cannot harm us or the planet. Hours turned into night as the engagement continued. The twin moons cast silver light over Zyphora's towers, and the fleet moved with quiet precision under Elias's guidance. The Apex hunters were now maneuvering exactly as he anticipated, restricted by gravitational anomalies, decoy signals, and controlled paths. Their intelligence was formidable, but human creativity and careful coordination had created a situation they could not dominate. Finally, after meticulous execution, the hunters retreated. Their vessels slipped quietly beyond the asteroid belt, leaving faint energy traces behind. The fleet breathed collectively, though Elias remained vigilant. The mission was a success, not through strength, but through careful strategy and flawless execution. Humans had shown that they could confront legends and turn potential danger into a controlled outcome. Princess Lyra approached Elias as the fleet celebrated the maneuver. "You have done more than survive, Elias Raynor," she said. "You have outmaneuvered a species that few have faced and emerged without loss. That is brilliance in action." Elias shook his head modestly. "It is only brilliant because we work together. Strategy, technology, and understanding, we combined them. Alone, no one could have achieved this." Lyra studied him carefully, her expression softening. "Perhaps I misjudged humans. You have shown courage, intelligence, and leadership beyond your rank. That is a quality I respect deeply." Elias allowed himself a quiet smile. "The galaxy is full of challenges, Princess, but humans are ready to face them. We adapt, we learn, and we act when necessary. That is what makes us resilient." As the fleet returned to the city's orbit, citizens and officers alike celebrated the victory. No lives were lost, and the Apex hunters had been forced to retreat without achieving their objective. Elias and Lyra walked along the observation platform above the city, reflecting on the events. The twin moons cast long shadows, and the towers of Zyphora shimmered under their light. "You have not only defended Zyphora," Lyra said softly, "but you have elevated humanity's reputation in the galaxy. Your insight, bravery, and planning have shown that humans are capable of more than we imagined." Elias nodded, humbled but resolute. "We are capable because we think, we adapt, and we act together. The galaxy is wide, full of legends and dangers, but humans are ready. And together, we can rise to meet any challenge." Lyra looked at him with respect and admiration. "I am beginning to understand that. Perhaps your kind will not only survive among the stars, but lead, inspire, and shape the future of the galaxy." Elias felt a quiet sense of pride. This mission had proven more than his personal skill. It had proven humanity's place among the stars. Humans were clever, adaptable, and capable of facing legends, even ones as fearsome as the Apex hunters. And with allies like Princess Lyra, cooperation and understanding could turn even the most dangerous encounters into opportunities for growth and achievement. The city below sparkled under the twin moons, its towers reflecting the triumph of careful planning, intelligence, and collaboration. The Apex hunters had tested humanity and Zyphora, and in doing so, they had witnessed the ingenuity and courage that defined human resilience. Elias turned to Lyra, feeling the weight of both responsibility and potential. "This is only the beginning," he said. "There are countless stars, countless worlds, and challenges yet unseen. But humans will face them with intelligence, courage, and determination. That is what makes us remarkable." Lyra smiled, a rare warmth in her violet eyes. "And I am grateful that we have humans like you beside us. Together, we have proven that strategy, intelligence, and courage can triumph over legend. The galaxy is vast, but humanity has found its place within it." The night continued, calm yet alive with quiet anticipation. The apex hunters had retreated, but the galaxy remained full of unknowns. Elias knew that challenges would come again, as they always did in the vast reaches of space. Yet he felt ready. He was no longer simply a cadet. He was a human among the stars, capable of facing danger, thinking creatively, and leading with courage. As he stood beside Princess Lyra, looking out over the city and the distant asteroid belts, Elias understood a truth that had become clear over these past days. Humanity had arrived in the galaxy, not as passive explorers, but as participants, innovators, and leaders. And when the universe tested them, they would rise not with brute strength alone, but with intelligence, adaptability, and the courage to act. In that moment, under the twin moons of Zifra, humanity's story among the stars had truly begun. And Elias Raynor, once a cadet, now stood at the forefront, ready to face whatever legends, dangers, or challenges the galaxy might send next.